Hello, everyone. You're welcome to class. Today is our fourth class for Group B, and then we'll continue with Linux system administration. So, do you have any question from our past sessions together? We've looked at the shell prompt, we've looked at navigation, we've looked at basic commands. Do you have any questions while you are practicing? Are we good? Okay, so if there are no questions, let's move on. Today we're going to be looking at user management, and if time permits us, we'll also look at permissions as well. So if you go to the 5th page of the course outline / curriculum that I shared with us, you're going to see user management there, right? The first article talks about users and groups. Second article talks about root and super users. The third one specified on how to create users, how to delete users. And the fourth article talks about how to create groups, how to delete groups, how to add user to groups, and all of that. So this is what we're going to be looking at in class today. Users and groups, they exist solely for access and permissions, so that we can give access to specific users, and then we can give permissions to some services. When running a process, it will run as the owner of that process. So on my screen right now, we know that the signed in user is EC2 user, this user here. So whatever I do now, the owner of that process is EC2 user. Okay. If I create a file, an empty file, say touch orange.txt, and I list, you will see that the owner of this file is EC2 user. Because while I created the empty file, the signed in user is EC2 user. All right. But that changes if I use sudo to do anything. Sudo, I told us before, means super user do. Okay. Super user do. We'll get to that shortly, and I'll expatiate on that. Whatever you use sudo for, the owner of the process is root. Okay. So users and groups exist for the sake of access and permissions, access to specific folders and files or services, permissions to be able to do some things or not to do, or to do other things. Okay. File access and ownership is also permission dependent. Access to this file or the ownership of these folders and this file is also based on permission as well. Okay. Each user have their own home directory. Told us before that when you create a user in the Linux server, two things are created: the home directory of that user and the primary group of that user. And the two of them shares the same name with the name as the name of the user. Okay. So each user have their own home directory where their user-specific files are stored. And we know where all home directory is: root home. If I cd to this place, cd root home, then I'll see all the home directory of the users. Okay. Bose, Cletus, EC2 user, Francis. These are home directory of the users. Okay. But I told us once, if you come here, it is not automatic that all the names you see here are automatically the users on this server. No. To be able to know the users on a Linux server, the right place to go is to go and cut the password file. Okay. When you cut the password file, you will find all the users. That's it. Let's move on. Now, the Linux system uses user IDs. User ID. UID and group ID. This is GID to manage users and groups respectively. The usernames you are seeing, look at this EC2 user. It has its own user ID. The primary group of this user also has its own group ID. Every user on the Linux system have their own user ID, and that's what the system uses to manage them. The usernames are for us human beings because it can be easily remembered. Okay. Usernames are the friendly way to associate users with identification. But the system identifies users by their UID. Okay, so if I cut password, look at Cletus. The user ID of Cletus is 1003, 1003. The user ID of EC2 user is 1000. The same way, if I cut group, the user ID of HR group is 1004. The user ID of Cletus is 1003. Okay, so each user have its own unique user ID that the system uses to manage them. Okay, the system also uses groups to manage permissions. Groups are just set of users with permissions set by that group. And they are also identified by their group ID, GIDs. Now let's talk about root and super users. Told us about root before. This is where talk about it deeper. One of the most important users on a Linux system is root or super user. I told us that root is the most powerful user on the system. Root can access any file. It can start and terminate any process. There is nothing like permission denied for root. Okay. So if I say user add, let's create a user for monkey. It says permission denied. If it were to be root, there is nothing, as long as that command is correct by syntax and by all standards, a root user can never be denied. It is called the administrator. So root user is the most powerful. It can start, it can terminate any process. It can also be dangerous to operate as root all the time because you're most vulnerable at that point and you could potentially remove critical files. You can delete it. Okay. So when we say do not always work as root, what if you need to do something like this that we just saw now, user to create a user? How then do you do it? What we can do is to elevate a regular user to a super user. So when you elevate a regular user to become a super user, such user can now use the keyword sudo Sudo means super user do. Okay. So the sudo command is used to run a command with root access. Now, to be able to use sudo, such user must have been declared in the sudoer file. Sudoer file. Now, if I cd into root etc, yeah, and I say cat sudoer, sudo cat sudoer. This is sudoer's file. Okay. The sudoer's file, any member of this file is automatically a sudoer. But because this file is a very important file, something else has been created to enable a user become a sudoer. If it is a distribution of Linux, if it's a Linux distro under the Red Hat, when you add any user to the wheel group, this wheel group, then such user becomes a sudoer automatically. So I repeat, on distros of Linux that are under Red Hat Package Manager, to make a user on such distro a super user, just add the user to the wheel group. We will do that shortly. But for distro of Linux that is under Debian Package Manager, like Ubuntu, like Debian, then add such user to the group called sudo. Okay, look at it. Allow members of group sudo to execute any command. Look at it, sudo. But when it is Amazon Linux, which is a distro of Linux under Red Hat, look at it, wheel. Do you see this? Allow users in group wheel to run all commands, wheel group. Okay, remember I told you there are some tiny differences between the distros of Linux. However, if you have learned a specific distro very well, you have learned 95%. That's very correct. I still maintain that. Okay. So let's get into Anson so you can see what we are talking about. Can I clear screen? CD. So how do we create users? How do we create users? It's simple. Sudo I think I'll have to consider another SSH client. Let me just tend to sign up to off on these days. Hello, can you hear me, everyone? Hello, can you hear me? All right, I'm sorry, my ISP timed out, and I was wondering what could be the problem. I experienced the same yesterday. I thought I resolved it. Can you see my screen? We were about creating users.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's create some users together. This is the command to create users on the Linux uh, server. Sudo. Remember we said to use sudo, you must be a super user, because commands like creating user is a root command, meaning that if you are not a root or you do not have root privileges, you can't do so. So you say sudo user add monkey, and that's it. You've created a user called monkey, and then you need to put password on monkey. You say sudo it's out again. Okay, let me clear screen. So I've been able to create a user called monkey, but it's not complete until we put password on the user. So we say sudo password monkey, and then you put password. Now in Linux, when you're entering password, it doesn't show anything. So you do that by faith. Okay, and ensure the two passwords correlate. So now we have a user called monkey. Now to confirm if the user has been created, what do? We will go and cut the password file. Until you cut the password file, before you are able to say this user exists on this server. So if I run cat root etc password. From our past classes, why do you think we are using full path here? Why can't I just say cat password? Why am I using the full path? Anybody knows while I'm using the full path in this place? Okay, let's do it this way.
So
Go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say, is it because you just added a new password?
No, the password is a file. This password, I'm not saying the password I gave to the user monkey. This password is a file. Let me show you. CD Etsy. And if I list and I scroll up, I'm inside the Etsy directory now. And if I scroll up, look at password here, which is a file. Okay. So from here now, I can say cat password. You know what cat does? Concatenate. You're able to view a file. So I just ran cat password and it showed me the content of the password file. But when I return to my home directory, user home, and I run cat password, it tells me no such file or directory. Then I say cat root Etsy password. And now I'm asking us, why do you think I'm using the absolute path to password here? Anyone knows?
Where you are using what, sir?
The absolute path, look at it.
You are using it to see the content of the password.
You know, that's what cat is doing for me. Why am I
Yes.
using this absolute path here, sir?
Is it because you're in the root?
Look at where I am currently.
Yeah, that's the root, isn't it?
No. This is the user home of this signed in user of
Okay.
EC2 user. This is whenever you see tilde sign this way, it means you are in the user home of this signed in user. Okay, so this is not root. Let me show you root. If I see the /, now this is root. To be working inside the root folder is not the same as signed in as root. From shell prompt, we learned that the name before the @ sign means the user that is signed in. The name after means the machine you are working inside. And whatever you see here means your current working directory. So currently, from this shell prompt, I'm working inside the root folder. If I list now, these are folders and files inside the root directory. If I return back to user home, okay, currently I'm working inside where? The home directory of this user. So whenever you see this tilde sign, it means you are in the home directory of this user. All right. Now, I told us in navigation that when you want to go into a file or you want to go into a folder or you have anything to do with any file or a folder and you are not in the parent folder of such file or such folder, then you must use the absolute path of such file or such folder. Okay. When I cd into root Etsy, I'm in Etsy folder now, and I listed, and then we saw password as part of the content of this folder. Okay. So because I'm in the parent folder of password file, here now I can run cat password without any problem. But if I return to my user home, and I list, there's nothing like password as part of the content of this current folder. So if I run cat password, it tells me no such file or directory. But one sure way to access a folder or directory from anywhere, even when you are not in the parent folder of that file or directory, is to what? Specify the full path of such file or such folder. Do you now see reason why I have to use the full path here? Because the folder where I am is not the parent folder of password. Assuming I were to be in Etsy folder, which is the parent folder of password file, I can run cat password and it will display all of this for me. Does it make sense? Hello, class.
Here, yeah, we now understand better now.
All right. Now I want to show you here that monkey user has been created. Okay. So if you need to make monkey user a super user such that this user as well can run commands with sudo, then you will have to elevate this user. To make this user a super user, first consider what distro of Linux is this. This is Amazon Linux. Under which package manager is it? It is under Red Hat Package Manager. So for Red Hat Package Manager, the group you will add a user to make such user a super user is called wheel group, WHELL. I showed you inside the sudoers file. So to make monkey a super user, we're going to add the monkey to the wheel group. To do that, you say sudo user mode. User mode means modify user. Okay. Sudo user mode flag AG. Now, what does this flag mean? Flag AG means retain the primary group of the user. I'm coming. This flag AG means retain the primary group of this user and add wheel and set wheel as secondary group of this user. So from what we've been saying since day 2 of this Linux session, the name of the primary group of this monkey user is what? Does anybody know? This user called monkey has a primary group. What's the name of the primary group?
EC2.
No.
Real.
Real is
Violent.
no, sir. The name is monkey.
Oh,
Did you copy?
yes.
So how do I know it is monkey? Remember we said that when you create a user, 2 other things are created with that user, which is what? The primary group of the user and the what? The home directory of that user. And these two things bears the same name as the user. So when we created the user monkey, what other two things were created with it automatically? Are you with me?
Yes. We are creating another file with it.
No. Just process what I just said now. When you create a user, which we just did, I said automatically two other things are created with it. The moment you create a user, two other things are created with it. The primary group of that user and the user home, the home directory of that user. And these two things, they bear the same name as the user. So as we created the user monkey, what other things are created with it?
Primary group and user mode.
It's simple. Based on what I just said, so the moment we created the group, the user monkey, it means we have also created the primary group of monkey called monkey and the user home of monkey called monkey. Yeah. So monkey has its own primary group, which is also monkey. Where will you find it? You go to the group file, just as the password file. You go to the group file. You will find all the groups on this Linux server inside the group file. Okay. Now, the command you are seeing here is we want to add monkey to a group called wheel group. However, we don't want the wheel group to displace the primary group of this user. Hence, we use flag AG, meaning add monkey to the wheel group, but set the group wheel as a secondary group to monkey. Okay. If I tap enter, that has been done. So let's show you what we are saying now. If I say cat root etc group, look at EC2 user primary group, Cletus primary group. This HR is not a primary group, it's just a normal group. Monkey primary group. Okay. I don't know that this HR is just a normal group, it's not a primary group. I will show you now. If I go cut the password file, there is no user here called HR. So I know that HR group is a normal group that was created for another purpose. And I've not shown us how to create group, which we are going to learn shortly. Okay, so let's return back to group. Okay, so if I go look for the wheel group, look at the wheel group. EC2 user is a member. So EC2 user can use sudo with its command. Bosse is a member. It can use sudo with its command. Monkey has just become a member. So monkey is also now a sudoer. That's what we are saying. Okay. Now, if I run the command groups, it will show me all the groups that this user belongs to. So you will now see that this user, EC2 user, belongs to EC2 user group, belongs to admin group, belongs to wheel group, belongs to HR group. Look at HR here, group. See, EC2 user is a member. Belongs to systemd journal group. The first user you see listed is the primary group of this user, which is also EC2 user. So if I had not used flag A, G, lowercase a, uppercase G, it could have displaced the primary group of that user and set another group as the primary group. Okay. Let's try that again with another user. Let's create lion. What's the command now? Or let's switch to monkey. See, to switch to a user, the command is su switch user, the name of the user, monkey. And then you put your password. Okay, we are now in the home directory of monkey. Now let's create another user called lion. Command is user add lion, but it will deny all permission because this command can only be executed by root or an elevated user. Elevated user is a sudo, a user that can use sudo command. So what do I do? I'm going to add sudo to this command. And because it's the first time monkey is using the sudo privilege, it will get this warning. Respect the privacy of others. Think before you type. And with great power comes great responsibility. Okay, so you put the password, and that's it. Lion has been created. Next, you give it a password. So you say sudo password lion. Put the password and confirm the password. Now you've created a user called lion. How do we confirm? We go to cat the password file. Look at it, lion. Can we cut the password, the group file as well? Look at the primary group, lion. Is lion a super user? No. Every super user will be a member of the wheel group, and lion is not here. So can we make lion a super user? Yes. So we say sudo user mode. That means user modification flag lowercase a, uppercase G, the name of the group, wheel, the name of the user, lion. So if we cut the group file again, and we go look at the wheel group, you see lion is now a member of the wheel group, meaning lion is now also a super user. Lion can also use the sudo command. Any question? Will there be any question before we move on? Okay, so there are no questions. Let us move on. Now that we've learned how to create a user, how to give the user password, how then do we delete a user? If user add is to create a user, then user del is to delete a user. Okay, so let's delete the user also. Again, we are denied because deleting the user is a root action. What do we do? What do we do to be able to delete the user boss?
Use sudo.
Thank you. Sudo. Okay. However, what we've done Let's go and cut password. Get entry password. Bose is no longer here as a user. But let's go to home directory and list. Do you see that Bose is still here? So remember what I told us about coming to this folder and saying that every name you find within this home folder are the users on this Linux server. That's not true. Because right now, Bose is here. Home folder of Bose is here. But Bose has been deleted because when I cut the password file, we did not see Bose there. So what does that mean? When you come here, what you will see are the home folders, home directory of users. Okay, but that's not to say those users still exist on the server. You want to see all the users on your Linux server, go and cut the password file. Okay. Now, when we deleted Bose, we did not delete Bose recursively. And that's why we still see the home directory of Bose here. So when you want to delete a user, but you do not want its home directory to be deleted, this is the command, sudo userdel Bose. But when you want to delete a user and everything associated with that user, you use flag R. I've exposed us to flag R before, meaning recursive. This time, let's delete lion, meaning that delete all that is associated with the lion user. That's it. So let's start with the password file. Lion is no longer here. Can we also cut the group? Line is a little longer here as well. Can we also list here? Line is no longer here. So when you want to delete a user and all that is associated with that user, then you have to use flag R. You have to use flag R with the userdel command. Okay. Now I did something. Cut password. Research file or directory, which is true. But get entry password showed me this. What's the difference between cat and getEnt? That I'm able to use getEnt from anywhere, but I could not use cat. I told us before in past classes. Anybody knows? Okay, so this is what I told them, the trainees in the US, another class yesterday. The only way, not only way, my recommended way of how to make best of this free training, how to optimize this training, is that you do not watch the training videos as though it's Hollywood. You watch it as what it is, a training video. And when you're in the training, you keep pen and paper to write things as you're listening. You filter, but you write the important ones. If you have your pen and your paper, you probably would have written it somewhere, how to use getEnt when I explained it, and how to use cat. I told us that getEnt means get entries. and it works for known database files on the Linux system. So what that means is from anywhere you are, from any folder you are working from within your Linux system, if you want to view a known database file, a known file, all you need to do is just to say get ent the name of that file. Okay, get ent group. Get ent the name of the file. Okay, you can't do cat password from anywhere. You either do cat password from the parent folder of password or from anywhere you specify the full path to password this way. Okay, but because password is a known file in the known database file on the Linux system, I can use getEnt for it from anywhere. Now, how do you know all known database files? If I run manual, man getEnt, it tells me more about get entry, and I will see all the database files. The getEnt command displays entries from databases supported by name service switch libraries. Look at all the non-database files, a host, version 4, version 6, aliases, ethers, group, gshadow, host, init groups, net group, networks, password protocols. So if you use getEnt with any of these files, from wherever you are within your Linux server, it will display the content of the file for you. Okay, so that's just by the way. So we've seen how to create users, how to add users to group, how to delete users and not to delete users recursively. Now let us create groups. If user add is to create a user, then what word will change here to create a group?
Group.
Beautiful. Group. So to create group, the word is group add, the name of the group. Let's create a group for marketing. Okay. And as simple as that, we've created a group called marketing. Because it is a group, you do not need to put password. A group does not need password. So how do we know the group marketing has been created? How do we confirm it's been created? Anybody wants to try? How do you see all the groups on the Linux server?
LL, LS. Just
LL, LS, or LS flag here. What would this command do for you?
the list.
List.
The
What does it
file,
list?
the files in the marketing group.
No, that's not it. LL, LS, LL flag, LS, L, LL flag A, LS flag A, LS flag LA. All this command will list the content of your current working directory. Do you get that now?
Yeah.
All this, they will list the content of your what? In whatever directory you are at that moment, ls will list the content. Okay. But how do you see all the groups on the Linux server? I've used the command severally in this class. Okay, think about it. If you have listened carefully to what I've been saying since, where will you find the groups on your Linux server?
It's a cat.
No, cats, eggs, um,
There's a file called group. Do you know that?
yes.
So what do you think will be inside this group file? All the groups.
All the groups we've created.
It's simple. So you want to see all the groups on the Linux server, go and view the group file. Just the same way you want to see all the users on your Linux server, go and view the password file. So if I cut, or if I just say get entry group, I find all the groups: Cletus, HR, Monkey, and Marketing, the one we just created. So either it is a primary group or it is a secondary group. It is a group, and it can be found within the group file. Is that clear? So we have marketing here. Can we now add users to this group? Done it before. Sudo user mode. That's how to add users to a group. Like AG, the name of the group. Marketing, the name of the user. Monkey. Good. Now, if I run getEnt group, you see, Monkey is now a member of the marketing group. Can we add Cletus also? What do we do? Sudo user mode flag AG, the name of the group, marketing, the name of the user,
Cletus.
Cletus. And if I run getEnt group, Cletus is now a member of the marketing group. Okay. All of this, we will make use of them. So let's say I give permission to marketing now. Only members, or I give access to this group. Only members of this group can have the permissions or the access on this group. Does it make any sense? So you've added Monkey and Cletus. How do we remove a user from a group? It's simple. We go sudo g password flag d, meaning delete, the name of the user, Monkey, the name of the group, marketing. Removing user Monkey from the group marketing. So if I run getEnt password, Monkey is no longer a member of the marketing group. Can we remove EC2 user from the HR group? Yes. What do we do? Sudo g password flag d, the name of the user, Cletus, the name of the group, marketing. And if I run getEnt password, getEnt group. Oh, okay, it was supposed to be HR, not marketing. HR. And if we run getEnt password, Cletus is no longer a member of the HR group. Okay. So you can be on the job and then you're asked to give the HR managers of all our 16 branches across Europe access to the payroll file. What do? You create a group, add all the HR manager of the 16 branches to that group, only the HR managers. And then the payroll file, give access, sole access of the payroll file to the group. So it means you're not a member of the HR group, you cannot access the payroll file on the server. Right? It might also be as complex as on our application based on pay grade, some staff are not allowed to access some features within the application, just as it is in the banking sector. There are some information on the banking app that the regular cashier over the counter cannot access or cannot even approve. How do you think they do such? They program such on the banking app. They limited them. Okay, they group them. So everybody within this group cannot have access beyond this level. They tell you your pay grade cannot access such. All right. So I think we've done well. Let's take 10 minutes break. When we return back from break, let us discuss permissions. Let's take 10 minutes break now. All right. Let's talk about file permissions. So on the Linux system, there are 4 parts to a file's permission. The first part is the file type. It tells you if it is a folder or a file. And I've shown us before, when you do a detailed listing of the content of a directory, it comes out like what you are seeing on your screen currently. Okay. Now, if you look at Jerusalem is a folder. And how do I know? You see a D here. This is the first part of the file permissions. Remember I said there are 4 parts. If you look at Lagos is also a folder, it's a directory. That's why you're seeing a D here. But look at the next file, Lexus is a file. It does not have a D. This is a directory, this is a directory, this is a file. Password is a file, Tesla is a file, Toyota is a file, Volvo is a file. I hope you are seeing my whiteboard. Are you able to see my whiteboard, please?
Yes.
Good. Now, the remaining 3 parts, they are permissions as well, grouped in 3 bits. They are grouped in 3 bits. Okay? This is the first bit, second bit, and the third. Group in 3 bits, read, write, execute, read, write, execute, read, and execute. This one group is read, write, and read only. Okay? So these are the 4 parts of permissions. the one that tells you what kind of file is the first bit, the first three group, second, and the third, all together making 4, right? Now there are 2 columns here. The first column is for users. The second column is for group. There is no column for the third identity. Okay. So on the Linux system, we have users designated with U, group represented with G, and others represented with O. U for users, G for group, O for others. Okay. So if you look at here now, this first column is for users. The second column is for group. There is no column for others because others could be anybody on the server. Let me show you from the Linux server so it can actually be clearer. Where is my Themios? Okay, let me exit. I want to return to EC2 user. Here we can see a lot of files, CD into black and list. So look at what we are saying now. From here, do that. This is a file Benz. How do I know? It does not have a D. I know this guy is a folder. How do I know? D here means directory. So also is Doha. Ford is a file. GMC is a file. Janeiro is a directory. Japan is a file. Jerusalem is a directory. Okay. Now we are saying permissions are in 4 parts. The first part is if it has a D or not. It tells you if it's a directory or not. Then the remainder part, the 3 parts, the next 3 are in bits. 3 bits. This is the first 3 bits, second and third. This first one here is for this group. Sorry, is for this column. This column is for user represented with U. This column is for group represented with G. And there is the last 3 bits for others, which does not have representation here. So this is users, groups, others, and represented here. These figures here represent the sizes of these files and folders respectively. 20 kilobytes for Cairo, 20 kilobytes for Doha, 122 kilobytes for Ford, 0 kilobytes for GMC. The day, the month it was created, the day of the month, and then the time, either that it was created or last modified. Okay. So now, this is how to interpret it. Let's start with this with this file, Benz. It means that this user, EC2 user, have read-write permission over this file. Okay. And this group and all the members of this group have read-write permission also over Ben's file. And others, who are others? Those that are not members of this group, and they are also not the user here, have read-only permission over Ben's. Okay, let's go to the next one, Cairo. For Cairo, the user represented with U has what? Read, write, execute permission over Cairo. The group and members of the group, there are any, they have read, write, execute permission over Cairo. And others have read and execute permission only over Cairo. Okay. If we skip to payroll, look at payroll. We say that for payroll file, the user have read and write permission over payroll. The group changed here. The HR group and members of this HR group, they have read and write permission over payroll, and others have read only permission over payroll. I hope it is making sense. Is it making sense?
Yes, it is.
All right. So let's look at the file Volvo. What permission does others have over Volvo?
Read permissions.
Read only. Beautiful. Look at Tesla 2. What permission does the user have over Tesla 2?
Read and write.
Beautiful. Let's look at Jerusalem folder. What permission does the EC2 group and members of the group, what do they have over Jerusalem?
Read, write, and execute.
Beautiful. So does it make sense now?
Yes, it does.
Now, it could be possible that I want to add to the permission or remove from the permission that any of these identities, either users or groups or others have. How do we now do that? Let's start with the Benz file. So if I want to give read, write, execute permission to the user over Ben's file, I'll say chi mode. Chi mode means change modification. Okay. Chi mode. User, how do we designate user, or how do we represent user? UG or O? How do you represent user, UG or O?
UG.
You.
U. U is for users, G is for group, and O is for others. So change modification for user, U plus, I want to give execute permission, read, write, execute permission for user over Benz. It already have read and write. So what does it not have? Execute. What's the, how do we represent execute?
Yes.
X. Over what? Benz. So if I list now, you now see that for Benz, the user now have what? Read, write, execute. What if I also want to do the same for group? That the group members of this group will also have read, write, execute permission over Benz. You go the same command, change modification, G group plus add execute permission over Benz. And if I list, you now see that the group here now also have read, write, execute permission over Benz. What if I want to give others write and execute permission as well? Then I'll say change mode, O for others, add, write, execute permission for Benz. And if we list, do you see? Write, execute permission over Benz. So that's how to give permission. How do we then remove it? The same way, change mode. Let's start with the Lagos folder. Let's remove execute permission for others, sorry, for group. So we'll say G for group, remove execute permission over the folder Lagos. And if we list, look at Lagos, you now see that the group now does not have execute permission. Here, the group have execute permission, that executes, but after we successfully removed it, it has been pulled out. Okay, that's how to add. We can do it multiple. Let's look at the payroll file. I can say for this payroll file, I want users, group, and others to have read, write, execute. So I will say Chi mode, user, group, others, add what? Read, write, execute permission over the file payroll. And if I list, do you see? Read, write, execute for users, read, write, execute for group, read, write, execute for others. Okay. Now there is a challenge that this method is limited. This method is limited. There are some things it cannot do. And what are those things? Let me show you. What if I want to say for London folder, let users have only read and execute. Let users have only read and execute. Let group have read and write. And let others have read only. What's going to happen? Let users have read and execute. Others, sorry, group read and write. Others read only. I would probably have to do that 3 times. Okay. But there is the numeric representation that can do that for us. So I can do something like cheat mode. Users should have read and write. That is represented with 6. Group should have read and execute. That is 5. And others should have read only. That is 4. 6, 5, 4. London. And if I list, look at London, users read and write, group can execute, others read only. So if I were to be scripting or doing bash scripting or setting up a cron job, this would have been a better way than the one I showed us initially. So how I got these numbers when we come to class on Monday, I will explain it to us. It is very simple and straightforward. Just simple addition. Okay. So I think it's important that we pause here and let me quickly explain to us
I'm sorry, can I quickly ask a question?
Please go ahead.
Yeah, if you want to go back to the previous screen, please.
All right.
Your shell screen. Yeah. Yeah, you were talking about user group and all that. I know the user is the EC2 user, the group is the
Mm-hmm.
EC2 user, the second
Mm-hmm.
row. So where is the order? Because I know the number in front of them are the sizes. So where is the number?
Yes. So I said others are not represented here because others could
Ah,
mean anything.
oh, okay. So is unknown, is not written on the screen at the moment.
Yes, not only at the
Okay, all
moment,
right.
it was not on any Linux
Oh,
distro. We use see a column for others.
oh, so it's
All right.
discrete, like.
Exactly, it's discrete. So how do
Ah,
we know others? We know that if you're not a member of this group
mhm.
and it is not your name that is here, you belong to
Okay,
others.
others.
If you're not a
Okay.
member of the HR group and
Mhm,
this is not your name, then
mhm.
as far as payroll file is concerned, you belong to
Oh,
others.
okay. So, if I may ask, so what are those numbers in front of the first user after um the directory write execute? What are those number? Those numbers in front of the first.
These numbers, right?
Yes. What are the
Okay,
four?
so they are representation for these files here.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
31166.
Mhm.
There are 5 representations.
Oh, okay.
System numbers, please. That's the right word.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other question?
No, not at all. But it said next on Tuesday you're gonna be explaining the 654
Hey, if
that.
you have time, I can quickly do that now. Let's quickly do that. It's not difficult at all.
Okay.
Let's go use our whiteboard to explain that. Let's new notice. Okay. Do you see this? Can you see my whiteboard?
Yeah. And
Okay. Read, write, execute. So 2 to 2. 2 to the power of 0, 2 to the power of 1, 2 to the power of 2, simple binary. Anything to the power of 0 is what? 1. Anything to the power of 1 is that thing. 2 raised to power 0 is 1. Anything raised to power 0 at all is 1 in binary. Okay? Then anything raised to power 1 is that thing. Okay? Now 2 raised to power 2 is what? 2 times 2, that is 4, isn't it? So let's write this. Read, write, execute. It's going to have 4, 2, 1. So I just needed to show you how we got the 421. 222012. Okay, so from your screen here now, you agree with me that read means what? Read is for 4, isn't it?
yeah,
Write is what?
2,
2. Execute is what?
1,
1. So read and write will be what?
6.
Beautiful. Okay, so read write is 6. Write and execute is what?
5.
If I did it properly. Write
3,
execute
sorry.
is 3. Good. Okay. Read and execute is what?
5.
Good. 4 plus 1. And then read, write, execute is what?
7.
Beautiful. So do you see how the number is generated now?
Okay, so you did the read, write, write,
Read, write,
execute,
execute, 4 to
and
1.
yes, and write.
Okay.
Now I'm
Read, write,
reading what
execute.
the execution you did, the last one, 654 London. So I was calling them out in
Okay, yes.
yeah,
654.
4.
That means 654 means user,
Read, yeah,
group, others. So for user 6, which is what?
read, write,
Read and write. For group 5, which is what?
write
Read,
and execute.
execute. For others 4, which is what? Read
Right. Read,
only.
sorry.
Look at it. If I
Yeah.
do 650 user group others, this is users read and write, group read and execute, others nothing at all, no permission. Because
So
0 here means nothing.
nothing.
Yes.
So with that no permission, do you still have to add the 0 to the group?
Yes. Either you had 0 or you didn't add 0. The first, so if I do 650,
Mhm.
it's the same thing as 65
Okay.
user group. But it's always good to put the 0.
Into the command line when
Yes.
executing. Okay.
As a matter of fact, 0 is the number in IT.
Mm,
Yeah.
binary number.
Yes.
Okay.
Of course. So if you understand, beautiful, if you understand binary number, then you understand the initial 222 I did here. 0, 1,
Okay.
2. Yeah. And you know that in binary, this power cannot go beyond the largest number here.
Mhm.
Any other question? All right. So if there are no other question, I think we can call it a day here, and then we'll continue Tuesday.
So when do we start getting like homework or assignment?
Oh, a lot of that is waiting for you when we get into the bootcamp
Okay.
properly. A lot of that. All right. So for now, practice what we are learning in class. Yeah. Then I
Yeah.
might just be pushing 1 or 2 interview quizzes to us.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna ask you if you can go back to the terminal, please.
Sure. Okay.
Right. So it's I noticed that you've been using the server terminal. Everything you've done, every of the execution you've made on server terminal, can it also be done on Ubuntu server?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So you just have to
Let's
pick
list.
which one works best for you, isn't it?
And so it depends on what the company you're working for uses. Okay. So the reason why I launched both distros is so that if there's anything that is unique between the two and I need to show you, I'll show you immediately. Like I said,
Okay.
If I create, let me get end password. So there is there is Ubuntu user here, and there's also a user called coach. Okay. If I run get end group, remember I said if you want to make a user a super user on the distro of Linux under Red Hat, like Amazon Linux, the name of the group is wheel. But on Linux distro under Debian, like Ubuntu, the name of the group is sudo.
Yes.
Which I want to show you. You will not find wheel. Look at it, sudo. So the user coach is a member of the sudo group. And that means this user coach is a super user.
Okay.
So those are distinct things about the different package managers. When we get into package installation, you will see more. All right. So that's why I launched both servers. So that anytime I need to show us what's different, you'll be able to see. However, the process of creating user, sudo user add, is the same. Sudo password, and if I run get entry password, look at the user here, Ola. And if I want to make Ola a super user, all I need to do is to run sudo user mode flag AG. This time around, not wheel. The name of the group is sudo, and the name of the user. So if I get end group, and I say grep for me sudo, look at it. Ola is a member of the sudo group. We learned this in our last class, how to use grep, pipe and grep command. I hope you remember.
Yeah, kind of. I came in late.
Oh, okay. So you might want to watch the class video then. It's on the playlist.
Surely do. Yeah.
So if you've learned a distro of Linux very well, then you've learned 95% of all the distros of Linux. Yeah, because all of them are built on the Unix kernel. Yeah, that's why Mac OS, Linux command also work on Mac OS. All right, any other question? Okay, so if there are no other question, we'll continue from here in our next class. All right. All right. Bye, everyone. I'll see you on Tuesday.
Thank you. Cheers.
All right.
Bye.
Guys. Bye.